Our next moment is a moment of testimony. Testimonies are actually very important in the life of the church. It's that personal experience that people have that gets them to share about how they experienced God or how a certain experience may have drawn them to God. Jim, listed here as James Donovan Kidd, shared with me his story not too long ago, and when we were putting together the service, I asked him if he'd be willing to share his testimony with us. And I want to let you know, having read it and having heard it, that it's one worth reflecting on, and it's one worth changing the worship service on. So for those of you who are very, very tied to the worship service and the way that it's flowing, and I'm speaking to you, choir director, just know that I'm allowing for the Spirit to flow a little bit with this one. All right, Jim, come on up.
Sure. Check, check. How's everyone doing? Can you hear me okay? Yes. Excellent. Okay. Good morning. My name is James Donovan Kidd. I am a parent to a student here at Montessori by the Sea. He's 7, a first grader, partying in the carnival right now. And I'm in my first year as a member here of Pass-A-Grille Beach Community Church. Thank you for welcoming me. Tomorrow's the 22nd anniversary of the attack on the World Trade Center. I'm not just a witness to that terror attack. I was actually present and a survivor of the attack. I hope to share with you a few things this morning that maybe you've never heard about a first-hand account of being there. It's important to me, the oral tradition of my story. I'm one of only a few thousand people that can say that they were there. And it's a short version of mine, but I was in the World Trade Center on September 11th, twice actually. The first time I went there early in the morning. I had a corporate apartment across the street in Battery Park City. My employer, JP Morgan, had an agreement with the Marriott that was in between the two towers that we were allowed to go and use their gym and swim in their swimming pool. And so after running downtown, I went to that Marriott in between the World Trade Center, and I did laps in their swimming pool. And when I was done, I flipped over on my back and I floated as I always did. And right over my head was a glass atrium, and what was I looking at but not other than World Trade Center North and South. And this is at about 7:15 in the morning when I flipped over on my back and floated. Did you know that there used to be a farmer's market at the World Trade Center? Every Tuesday and Thursday, tri-state area farmers from all over would bring produce and baked goods. And if you knew about this secret, like I did, you could go and get molasses cookies, which I did every Tuesday and Thursday. So I got my molasses cookies. And then I returned to that corporate apartment across the street at Battery Park, and I put on my suit and I watched the local news. It was morning politics because of the mayoral races. I had one of those molasses cookies I just told you about. And then I prepared to go back into the Trade Center to get my shoes shined. I was an investment banker. You had to get your shoes shined. So I sat down in the subterranean level. If you remember, there used to be a Gap and a Banana Republic and an Aubon Pond underground below the World Trade Center. And so I would go in and trek into the World Trade Center bellows, and I would sit down at around 8:42 to get my shoes shined. A few minutes later, the North Tower would jolt and be shook in my seat as it was struck by the first plane. I heard its metal peeling and I knew something wasn't right. The concerned gentleman shining my shoes looked at me and he said, "Path train?" And I thought, that makes perfect sense. A path train had derailed. We both quickly concluded that that's what had happened. That's why I was bouncing in my seat. And shortly after, he finished my shoe shine for another 90 seconds. We figured out what had happened. He took the last buff and I jumped up and I exited the World Trade Center completely unscathed and wholly unaware of the journey I was about to go on. As I approached, I could see tourists with umbrellas. This was common. Even though it was beautiful and sunny, they had their umbrellas and they were all tilted up because they were looking at the top of the World Trade Center. So as I exited with them, I walked backwards, looking up as well, and I thought, well, that's weird. It was a path train. Kept walking. I went to the Chase Manhattan Plaza where my meeting was. In the conference center there, we all began discussing. Yeah, I felt it, but I thought it was a train. No, it was a plane from Teterboro? It was a plane from Teterboro is what we're hearing. We tried to exit the conference center now and get downstairs to kind of join others and see what's going on. Down there, somebody said, Spike Lee is filming down nearby. Oh, it must be Spike Lee. From there, 6 of us would band together and we'd head to the South Street Seaport. There's a bomb on one of the planes, somebody said. Should we jump in the Hudson River if it goes off? One of my colleagues asked. I thought, no, we're safer here against a bomb than we are in the river. We sat there for a few moments like sitting ducks, and then we stood to head back to our offices, wondering if maybe everything would be fine. We rounded Fulton Street, and that's when it happened. Boom, plane 2 had struck. And now the towers had both been hit. I get a call on my new cellular flip phone, and it's my father. He's telling me about the news and the confusion pouring in, screaming into the phone, "Just run, just get out of there, James." No idea where to go. We head to the Staten Island ferry, but as soon as we get there, it pulls away. We're too late. So we have no other choice but to race back past the towers. As we did, we began to see it. First, it was furniture, chairs, coat hangers, desks, then thud, a person. Someone yelled near me, "That was a person!" Thud, "No, WTF is happening?" We began to see multiple people in their final stage of fight or flight, and they were leaping to their deaths in front of us. It's imprinted in my brain, the thematic falling. I felt like I was looking in their eyes, and each were only there for moments, but they knew that we had to get moving. 2 unique things happened in the moment. One was from my colleague Belinda. She was a brilliant, lovely woman from Australia, and upon one woman's impact, she turned and she said in a British accent, "Well, that was good that she was in a denim skirt, don't you think?" It was a strange comment for someone to make, and the horror and confusion showed on my face as she was addressing fashion. Well, she said everyone else's face knew when they were going to hit, but that woman didn't know. That was the silver lining of the moment that we were in. That's when we knew that things were really getting real and we needed to get out of there. Next, there was another divine moment for me, because as the furniture was falling and the bodies were jumping and the sirens were wailing, it all slowed down. It got extremely quiet, and I could see a very strong connection to each and every body that was falling and dying around me, and all of those that were living and standing around me. I heard and experienced pure calmness and a sense of clarity in a mere 2 seconds, and it reshaped my life. I heard an inner voice claiming, "Connect it all." It was a message of getting out there and being amongst people, not numbers. It was a message of strength and encouragement to go out and fail boldly and urgently in pursuit of happiness. And as we picked up foot and now covered in soot, our hands and our faces and sharp fiberglass dust that would cut our hands if you tried to wipe away the blood, the sweat, and the tears that were all mixing together, a man in a minivan would scream, "Hand!" And if you put your hand out through the soot fog, he would hand you a wet paper towel so you could breathe. We made it to Alphabet City 30 to 40 minutes later of quick-paced walking, and we stood there getting cigarettes and booze in the corner store because it's the end of the world, why not? And that's where we were when we heard the wave of scream getting louder. We had to see what was happening, so we turned and looked, and there they were, the towers crumbling before our eyes. The skyline was altered in an instant. We had to run again, first on foot, then walking and trotting for hours. We'd head back to the Park Central where one of the six of us had a hotel room, and there we'd camp out for 2 nights trapped. Then New York City was inaccessible. A scare in the lobby later that afternoon would send all of us scurrying into the streets. Nerves were high, but everyone remained lovely and calm. The remainder of the day, we drank heavily at the Plaza Bar at the Central Park. All drinks were free. Again, it was the end of the world, serve yourself. We played I Spy, lying drunk in Central Park, waiting for the fighter jets to subside to confirm there were no more attacks. And as dusk approached, we watched the news throughout the night, sprawled across that New York City tight double hotel room. I'm almost done. The next morning, I stood showered. I'm still in the clothes that I was wearing. These are the shoes that I had shined that morning. These are the pants that I was wearing. And I stood there on Broadway, the smoke rising from the Trade Center and the rubble. My life was different today. It wouldn't be the same ever. Shortly after I had quit my job as an investment banker, I began the journey of coming out of the closet as a gay man, and I relocated down south to Dallas, Texas. I've been down south since then, Atlanta for 10 years, now St. Pete since 2012. 9/11 was the worst day in our country's history, but it drove some of the most clarity for me in my life. It was a sliding doors moment, and I saw what I saw. I understand that I'm doing the best in my life, like all of you, that we're just walking through fire to try to be the best version of ourselves, failing daily. Keep trying. I'm cheering you on. I saw that we're all connected in good energy and in bad, not just at a church or a school or a community or a beach town, but globally. Are you having a bad day, a fight with your kid, a stress at home, or an illness? You're in the pool with us. Road rage, you're adding to it. Choose the light, choose happiness. It's harder, it takes daily work, meditation, exercise, and prayer. Hang in there. Ground and root yourself to this earth. Spread your branches wide and get to know the energy around you, good and bad. Be the light. Keep going, there is a purpose. And speaking of purpose, if I could get him to stand up, he wouldn't. I know he is in the back there, my husband, who I've been graciously married to now for 14 years, and this is our now 7-year-old adopted son. I would say, if that was my purpose, to just, be saved so that my husband and I can raise our son
that'd be great. It's probably larger than that, but that would be enough for me. I'm grateful for this moment right now here with you, and I hope you go out today and every day and that you're grateful for all you do have. Life is short. We all have to live in this moment. Thank you.
So, Jim was talking fast because I told him he only had 5 minutes. And then later on I told him by email, he said, I think it's going to take 7. And I said, it'll be fine, don't worry about it. And I think we need to take a little bit more time with it. So I want to begin first with a little bit of silence. Let's soak in some of what he said, words, images, and then I'm going to ask him a few questions for us to contemplate on. Okay, Jim. So, in slower paced words, I want you to repeat something that you said before that I'm not sure everybody got.
Okay.
And that is a moment of intersection. There was a horrific thing happening right before your eyes, bodies were falling, and you had a moment of clarity.
I did.
Can you speak more to that, please?
Yes. The best way I can describe it is if you remember that game Cubert from when we were younger, where you could hop to different squares and it would light up green or red depending on the direction you chose. It was sort of a digital web. It appeared like that. And the green choices were obvious. It was easy to see to just hop to the green, right? I hated investment banking. Quit. I was gay. Come out. I didn't really love living in New York, even though I was supposed to. Leave, right? All these things in my head, one after the other, were boom, thoughts that were just quickly in there and so obvious and so clear that there wasn't any question. And so it was a very divine moment for me because it only lasted a split second, and after that it was run. So
Yeah. But from that moment of clarity, you were able to shift your priorities in life.
Like that.
And become a more authentic version of yourself.
Still trying, but yes, every day I'm closer.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Jim.
Thank you. Thanks for bearing with me.